In Mark chapter 2, verse 1, the King James Version says he was in the house, but the footnote says at home. The home might have been Jesus' own house, or perhaps more likely, Peter's house. The illustration you see on the screen is the archaeological remains of what might have been Peter's house. Biblical archaeologists note that within a couple of decades after Christ's death, this specific house appears to have ceased being used as a living place and instead became a gathering place for early Christians. Some suggest that this was the home where Peter lived. Capernaum was a small town, so whether it was this specific house or somewhere near here, when you visit Capernaum today, you're walking where Jesus walked and in the same place where he performed many miracles. I mention this just to remind us that as we read about Jesus, we are reading about things that really happened. Capernaum was a real place. There was a real house where Jesus lived, and the miracles Christ performed really happened. Let's go back to Mark chapter 2, where it says that Jesus was at home. For our purposes, let's assume it's Peter's home. In verse 2 we read, "So many gathered around that there was no longer room for them, not even in front of the door, and he was speaking the word to them. Then some people came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them." You know what's going to happen next, right? They're going to come through the roof. And I want to pause for a moment and point out a lesson. A lot of people come to Jesus through the front door, but not everybody does. These people are going to come through the roof. Zacchaeus will climb a sycamore tree. There are lots of ways to approach Jesus, and your way might be a little unique. That's okay. We read, "And when they could not bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him, and after having dug through it, they let down the mat on which the paralytic lay." Sometimes we read this account and think, oh wow, I love the faith of chopping up the roof to lower their friend down. This is great. But what if it was your roof? Can you imagine? Peter's listening to Jesus. He's like, amen, I love this. And then there's a thud, thud. Peter's looking up and then boom, there's a big hole in your roof. And Peter thinks, oh, I just fixed that last month. Or what does Jesus feel? Have you ever been a guest in someone's house and then you break their toilet or something? You feel terrible. Does Jesus look at Peter and say, oh, I'm really sorry? Actually, I don't think Jesus was worried about the roof. In verse 5, we read, Jesus saw their faith. You can see I've highlighted 2 different words here. First, Jesus saw their faith. Jesus didn't see that they had wrecked his roof. He didn't say, hey, you're disrupting my speech, you vandals. He saw the good. He saw their faith. I also want to highlight the word their. Jesus saw their faith. Not just the faith of the person he was going to heal, but the faith of the friends who had made the effort to put the hole in the roof and lower their friend down. This is a powerful insight for those of us who are hoping for a miracle for somebody we love. Jesus saw their faith, and he will see your faith as well. You and I can exercise our faith on behalf of friends, just like the people did in Mark chapter 2. After Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, arise, take up thy bed, and go thy way into thine house. And immediately he arose, took up the bed. They were all amazed. To see more videos like this one, simply search Seeking Jesus.